Hi folks, this is Anne-Marie from LSU CXC, and thanks for spending part of your day with me. Today we're going to dive into some elements of writing for research. Specifically, just laying the groundwork, some intro ideas about the components of research, and then the specifics of how we can use language in research. But first, who are we? LSU Communication across the curriculum exists with one purpose in mind. We want to help you build your communication skills in writing, speaking, visual communication, and technological communication. And we have a variety of different locations around campus, as well as a lot of digital resources like the one that you're watching right now, available via cxc.lsu.edu. From there, we'll dive into some of the things that we might be able to help you with. When we're thinking about research and all of the different things that go into it, it can be a little bit overwhelming. But at its core, most research writing really contains the same kinds of components. There's always an introduction, a lit review, the methods, the findings, and then the discussions, implications, recommendations. Those words change depending on the field that you're in. Here's the broad strokes of what those things mean. Your introduction, the 30,000-foot view of it all. It's still specific. It's not a fluffy little, like, isn't the world grand kind of intro, but it says, here's what we're talking about. Here's the questions we're trying to answer about it. Here's where we're going to take you in this paper or this project. And here's why all this stuff matters in the world, right? It's the 30,000-foot view. It's everything encompassed in that introduction. You also have a lit review. You talk about what came before. What were other people writing about? What were their methods? What were their conclusions? What were their ideas? You include your methods. How did I do my own research? What were the methods I applied? And then significantly, what did I find? And this is just the facts. What did I get as a result of doing my research? And then in the discussions, the implications, the recommendations section, we talk about why this matters, but also significantly, what somebody else can do with it. And now, while these components appear in most research projects across disciplines, it's really important for you to realize that disciplines and contexts can vary. The way you shape this in a paper for sociology might be different, and in fact is likely different from the way you shape this in a paper for engineering or for another kind of class. So keep in mind that disciplines and even contexts within disciplines can vary. And one of the best ways to equip yourself in understanding where all these different components play out and in what specifics these components play out is by reading and finding different samples. And then importantly, ask what structures are best for the situation and context. Find your instructor, find your supervisor, find your friendly CXC mentor, and they can help you talk through the process for figuring out the appropriate approaches for situation and context. And keep in mind, and this is a big one, while you're moving through your undergraduate career, and even your graduate career in some cases, in a particular project for a class or for a lab, you might not be asked to complete every single one of these components. These components might be broken out into different semester-long projects so that you can perfect the art of the lit review or the art of a methods section. So again, asking what structures are best for situation and context is really going to help you out. Now, we've talked about the components element, sort of these big chunks that we might always see inside a research project or paper, but we also have to talk a little bit about language. And this particular part of language, I really want to highlight. If you can take away some of these key points, then it's really going to be translatable across multiple different kinds of disciplines. One of the biggest questions we get when we are encountering folks who are beginning the process of research, and one of the biggest misconceptions we get, is about the difference between descriptive and creative language. So I'll break that up a little bit here. Descriptive language is something that describes rather than tells. It emphasizes the sensory elements the writer observes, like what we're seeing, what we're hearing, what we're touching, what we're smelling, rather than what we think is happening. It's sensory. It's what we can actually document from observation. And then it uses precise language. It doesn't add extra stuff in there. Creative language, it might use slang or idioms to serve a mental image or character. And in a creative language context, There are whole other structures and incredibly sophisticated approaches to doing that effectively. And that's for another video. It might use language that invokes bias, evaluation, or some kind of an assertion that doesn't have support attached to it. And by support, I mean it doesn't have sensory elements or extra data supporting the idea that it's saying. And it has the latitude to use various language tones and styles to inspire emotions, images, or actions. It's really creating a new world through the language that it is presenting. And that's an important distinction to keep in mind when you are writing for research. Creative language is powerful, but it is not necessarily the language that you're going to be using when you're writing in a technical or a research context. For example, we have this image. He was in pain, his fingers clenching over his light green tea as he bent forward, struggling for help. Now, this sets this tone, right? Like we look at the picture and then the language is telling you a story about this person who's in intense pain. He's clenching his light green tea, he's bending forward, he's struggling, which, you know, in a certain context in creative writing might actually be incredibly effective. But when you're writing for research and you're documenting an observation, there's some stuff in there that veers a little bit too far into creative writing. You're asserting that he's in pain, but you don't really know that. You're using extra details in there that it's a light green t-shirt. You emphasize he's struggling for help, right? In a different context, you might simply say he was in pain. It's simpler, it's more straightforward. But in this sentence, you still don't include the data that tells any other person how you have come to conclude that he is in pain. He was grimacing and he was clutching his stomach. This is pretty straightforward language. We're seeing from the facial expression there's a grimace, and we're seeing the hands clutch the stomach area. He was grimacing and clutching his stomach, which suggested he was in pain. We have an inference, we have a suggestion there, we have an assertion there, but we also have the data supporting why the suggestion was made that he might be in pain. Now, a couple of additional quick tips. Avoiding scare quotes. The evil mushroom people are taking all our jobs, right? We don't have any sense for who actually said they were evil and if the word evil was really used. We just know that the word evil is in quotation marks so that we get some kind of an emotional response from that term. We might guess that the writer thinks evil is a ridiculous statement to say about the mushroom people, but without any context, we're just left hanging. James, 2019, implies that mushroom people lack morals because they are taking jobs away from legume people. This is a little bit more descriptive, a little bit more precise in terms of where the idea that mushroom people are not good came from. It includes information about the source of where this information came from, right? And it actually explains a little bit in more detail what you mean when you say they're lacking morals and why they might be lacking morals. Now, if you wanted to use a direct quote, then you could say something like James 2019, page 86 states, the mushroom people are evil because they're taking legume people's jobs. So in this case, you're actually saying that this person, James, did actually use the word evil, but you're giving me enough other information around that quote to understand why evil deserves a quotation period. And so those are some important distinctions. Avoiding editorializing is a big deal when it comes to research and writing. This gross villainization of the mushroom people is void of support. There's a lot of language in there that's prepared for an argument. You're saying it's gross villainization. We're painting a picture. We're being a little bit extra dramatic, right? In my research, this research will demonstrate that despite negative stereotypes of mushroom people, there is no correlation between their success and others' failure. So the sentence below says, our research is showing us that we don't have any information to suggest mushroom people are bad. But I'm using a different kind of language that grounds it in the fact that we're doing research. It's accurately discussing that there are negative stereotypes of mushroom people rather than calling it out as gross villainization, which can be polarizing language in a research context. And it's highlighting where your research is going to take somebody. Avoiding generalizations. We're seeing this everywhere. And truly we're seeing generalizations everywhere. But where are we actually seeing it? What are we seeing? What's the everywhere, right? In American culture, these ideas are frequently demonstrated in news media and in public protests associated with the economy. So we're telling everybody specifically site-based, it's American culture. We're telling everybody specifically what conduits this information is coming through, news media and public protests associated with the economy. So when you're doing research and writing, I hope that these couple of quick tips have been helpful for you. And my reminder takeaways here are, when you're looking at components and language, you want to make sure that you're researching the discipline and the context so that you understand component order and which components you really need to be focusing on specifically for the immediate task at hand. And then as you're cultivating your language, you want it to be descriptive and you want it to be precise. You want to avoid some of those common errors, particularly between descriptive and creative language. And when you're ready and you want to connect with somebody more about the writing that you're doing, you can come and see us through our digital resources where we do one-on-one writing support, presentation support, 2D and 3D resources and consultations. We do equipment checkouts for audio and visual elements and more. And as we live in a rapidly changing world, the best thing for you to do is go to cxc.lsu.edu, where you can stay up to date on everything that is available for you, both physically on site at the LSU campus and also via a variety of real-time and on your own time digital resources. And in the meantime, happy communicating and take care.